Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Scares That Shaped Us, a podcast about horror writers and the stories that made them. I'm your host, Matthew Jackson, and this week I am joined by two of my favorite indie horror filmmakers. They are two parts of the filmmaking collective known as the Addams Family. They have made films like The Deeper You Dig, Hellbender, Where the Devil Roams, and more. Their latest film, Mother of Flies, is available on Shudder January 23rd. Toby Poser and John Addams, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Matthew Jackson, great. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. It's like I said, I've been a fan of your work for a really long time, so it's great to be able to talk to you about your work and how you do things. Mother of Flies is incredible. I saw it during Fantasia. I was lucky enough to get a link sent. I wasn't there in person, but they sent it to me, and I was blown away by this movie, telling everyone at subsequent festivals that they had to go see it, and telling everyone now that they have to go watch it when it hits Shudder. I want to just start by asking about this movie's origin story. Where does it start for both of you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Again, I don't know how we can express how much you're saying that means to us. It really does, because we love making movies. We loved making this one. So your words go right to our little melty hearts. We both, so our movies usually have an autobiographical current under them. In this case, we were talking about something that we eventually knew we were going to, which was that we have some histories with cancer. John had cancer in 1994. Mine was a very different kind of cancer in 2018 or 1918. Yeah. And then Zelda recently discovered she carries the same gene for something called Lynch syndrome, which makes her vulnerable to several cancers. She inherited that from me. So we thought, well, let's tell our own story about this through the beautiful lens of horror. And that's what we did, not only about the journey of the person who is battling death, but also for those who love them.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful way of exploring all of that. And for those who don't know, the film is about a father and a daughter, and the daughter is dealing with an illness and, could die at some point. Like, she is degenerating, and she believes that she has found a woman in the woods, a wise woman, as they used to say, in the woods, who can help her through this illness. And so, against her father's better judgment, they both go there and they encounter this strange woman who has very interesting views on life, death, decay, magic, and so on. I really don't want to give too much away about the film, but it is that classic Addams Family filmmaking style where you're all in it. You all wrote it. You all directed it. You all shot it and scored it. Who kind of, if anyone, like what is the process like when you're all, I should say the two of you and Zelda are the credited writers on this. What does it look like for you as a family collaborating on a script? Does one of you tend to take the lead and then the others come in and make suggestions or notes or polishes? How did it come together?
Usually we bounce. Not usually, always, we bounce ideas off of each other relentlessly, just relentless. And when one is simple enough that everybody turns and says, that sounds fun, that's when we all jump into that barrel. And that's what happened with this one. We could tell you all the other ideas that we were thinking of, but this one, when Zelda tested for that Lynch syndrome, this one jumped right down onto the hot plate, and that's how it works. And then once we all, we knew, we were like, okay, let's talk about a kid that has to go to a healer, a witch doctor, to heal this terrible sickness. And let's figure out the price that they all have to pay. And from there, we know that that's the skeleton of the story. And we all just start throwing meat at it. And if the meat sticks and looks right, we build a body and the body of the story. And that's how this one really came together. Was we saw what it was. We saw the beginning and we saw the end. We also knew what the end was going to be. And we all just throw meat at the body.
This is also, I think, one of your most visually beautiful films. And it's not the first time that you have taken to the natural world as your set. uh, a lot of your films deal with the way that we as humans interact with the natural world. And I think this one in particular, I wrote about this when I reviewed the film for Pop Heist, and it still sticks with me where, John, you and Zelda meet Toby's character, and Toby, you say something very beautiful about a dead butterfly, which is it's just as beautiful dead as it was alive. And it's such a potent kind of ethos to tackle this story, because you are confronting death and what it means to each of you, and you're doing it surrounded by evidence that when we die, we go back to the earth, and the earth is fed, and new things grow where dead things once fell. What was it like knowing that it has this autobiographical element, and knowing that you've both had brushes with this, and getting this news about Zelda, going in and really doing the emotional work of shooting these scenes together? Was it therapeutic for you?
I found it therapeutic, and I found it cathartic. There was some, at first I was worried about, and I talked to Zelda about this before we really jumped into the film. I worried that she would be carrying around some kind of stigma, like she was a walking time bomb. And it all, as actually the opposite of that happened. She's like, no, let's find the power in this story, in these truths that so many people have to face, and let's make a film on our own terms. That, in essence, was incredibly cathartic and powerful. And and particularly with her character, mine was a reproductive cancer. So without giving anything away, the kind of transformation that happens in this story was particularly powerful for me, coming from my history.
Yeah, and for me, it was fun to talk about life and death, because in Western civilization, probably most civilizations, we're all taught to fear death. Death is a dark, terrible place, and we have to come up with very romantic stories about how that's wonderful, and there's an easy key to dealing with it. But if you don't have basically a religious structure, which we don't, or I don't, I'll only speak for myself. I don't have a religious structure that says, oh, when I die, it's going to be amazing. I know exactly what it's going to be like. I trust in death the same way I trust in waking up every morning to life. It's like, I can't do anything about it but wake up and deal with it. And that's what's going to, and I think we want to celebrate the beauty of death. And that's why, you know, her character represents death. It's complex, it's tough, it's magic, it's surprising, and it's loving. And if you have faith, and there's a line in the movie about, you know, I have faith in waking up and living life, and I have the same faith in what's to come.
Yeah.
And it's not faith. It's, you know, I think we want to celebrate that.
It's a really beautiful way of looking at it, and it's such a, Toby, you use the word cathartic. It feels like a cathartic film, especially if, you know, if you're someone dealing with any kind of recent grief or loss in your life, or even just chronic illness that so many people deal with. But I want to ask about something very specific in the design of the film, because when I have spoken to other people who have screened this movie, I was talking to someone just last week who watched a screener ahead of the Shudder release. Everyone talk about everything about the film, but the thing that I hear over and over is, oh my God, that house. The house where all of this takes place is such a beautiful visual metaphor for the themes of the film. And it's also just wonderful to look at. It's amazing production value. Where did you find that house? How did that house come together for y'all?
Matthew, that is the structure of the house is actually our house that we live in, up on the mountain. And then our wonderful fifth family member, Trey Lyndsay, who was our special effects wizard, he painted and composited in all the trees and the roots and everything that he put in there to make it the fantastical thing it is. And then that's the exteriors. And then the interiors, John's sister has a farm with a very old barn, and we would hike 4 flights up to the top of this barn where the light was gorgeous, and we would just carry with us what do you call it?
There was a logging operation right near, so we took all the bark from all the logging operations, and we screwed it into the walls, and then we brought in like trees that we could carry, and we brought in moss, and we put it all over, and then so that it really looked like kind of a room in the woods. And then we had Trey also just composite in the seams where we couldn't he just finished the seams in such a beautiful way.
Independent filmmakers take notes. This is how it's done. I want to ask you both about that, about the DIY approach that you have to your filmmaking as a family. Not just in the sense that it's this very collaborative thing that all of you do together, but in the sense that you are very much your films keep it intimate in that way. And so many filmmakers who started doing the kind of films that you were doing have gone on to get offers for bigger films, work for higher things, stuff like that. Is it, if Blumhouse came to you tomorrow with an offer to do some big horror franchise thing, is it something you would consider, or is this DIY ethic and approach just where you want to stay and continue for the rest of your careers?
We're very happy doing what we do. I always say, never say never, because then you'll find yourself saying yes when you're like, I said I would never say yes. And then you're like, so, but we're very happy doing what we're doing. It really works for us. We're very much in control of our vision. We wear all the hats. We're comfortable wearing them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, another thing is there's plenty of filmmakers out there that should work with Blumhouse, and together with Blumhouse, they'll make really great Hollywood films that we're all going to really enjoy. We're making films for a slice or a sect of the horror audience that wants something different. And we enjoy making those, and we enjoy talking about issues that I don't think other big horror movies can talk about or really want to. They're more into the business of horror entertainment, which is really fun. And so we just feel like we've been given permission by this great horror community to talk about things that are fascinating to us and that affect us, like honestly. And here we are talking with you. And when we go to festivals, we're talking to people that say, hey, my mother just had cancer, or I just had cancer, or like From Where the Devil Roams. It's always something very personal that all of us want to talk about. And in this day and age, it's so great to have this community that we get to communicate with. And so my feeling is Blumhouse should hire people that are going to be better for them, because we just really enjoy what we're doing, and we're making these movies for people like us.
Yeah, it shows. There is, I think, in your films a tangible enthusiasm and love for what you do, and a tangible enthusiasm and love for each other. And I think that's particularly true in the kind of tenderness that comes across in Mother of Flies. But I want to jump back to something thematically about the film, because when I first saw it, I immediately thought about my favorite film of yours, which is Hellbender. I went, oh, this is a companion piece to Hellbender. You could double feature this with Hellbender, and it would be a wonderful time, wonderful way to spend a Friday night. Were you conscious at all of that connection in working on it? Did you think of it as sort of a spiritual sister to Hellbender, or am I just projecting my own love of Hellbender all over your current work?
I think we felt, in the sheer fact that we were hanging out in the woods together, which we did a lot with Hellbender, it really did feel like it shared DNA. I feel like Hellbender is often credited as a witch movie. We understand that, but this one was much more our swing at a witch movie, more concretely than Hellbender was. But the themes of nature were there, and yeah, just the hanging out in the woods, waiting on clouds was similar. So I think they are cousins.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's interesting that you say that too, because I think right now we're making a movie that's very much a companion of The Deeper You Dig. Part of that is evolution with creativity, and you always want to be a better artist. So we know what we did wrong with Hellbender. We feel like we know what we did right. We listen to people, we read reviews, we love talking to people like yourself and learn. And so, yes, Mother Flies is a companion to Hellbender, and the movie that we're working on now, the Glorious Dead, I would say is a companion of The Deeper You Dig. And it's like, it's just learning. It's always like getting better at what you do, trying to improve as a creator.
Can I add something real fast too? Like similarly to what I know I'll like to talk about with the movie we're going to talk about. Both Hellbender and the Mother of Flies were predominantly summer movies. I mean, Hellbender, most of the shooting took place over a summer. Mother of Flies is all over a summer with a little bit of flashback in the autumn. And finding horror within the daylight or the heat and lush of summer is something that that's a great exercise, you know, as a filmmaker. And I think both of them, we were shooting for that, as opposed to something like The Deep You Dig was very much like a dark kind of nocturnal feel.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask one more quick thing about Hellbender, because Toby, when I met you at Fantastic Fest, you mentioned that you were exploring writing a novelization of Hellbender.
Yeah.
Is that something you're still interested in?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be done within a couple months. Yeah, the latest. I'm pretty close, and with that first draft, and I'm really enjoying it. And I hope to continue that with other films of ours.
So I don't want to spoil anything you're adding or doing with the novelization that fans of the film will get to discover for the first time. But what are you sort of finding out about Hellbender as you're writing this that you maybe didn't know after having made the film?
Oh, it's a neat question. I guess I'm discovering that these women are just really fucking cool. You know, these hellbenders are just I mean, both the mother and the child, for different reasons. The mother, who I'll also talk about with the film we're going to talk about today, her reasons for denying a legacy and wanting to be kind of just a human who has a simple life. And then this girl who wants to know, like, taste her legacy and devour it like her mother had the chance to. So I think they're both interesting polar sides of one wonderful, beautiful hellbender breed. And I'm enjoying writing about that.
I can't wait to read that as a fan of Hellbender. And I should also mention that if you are interested in more Hellbender-ish stuff, the Addams Family also has a music project called Hellbender. You can go dig up songs that were featured in the film and songs that are within the same sort of tonal aesthetic as the music in the film, and they rule. So go support the music as well. We have alluded now several times to the film we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead with it. We're going to talk about one of the pillars of 1970s horror. We're going to talk about the Omen. Starting with, I mean, we can talk about all of the Omen, but we're starting with the first film released in 1976, directed by Richard Donner. One of the biggest horror films of the 70s, still a classic that people keep going back to. Either one of you can start with this, but I just kind of want to start by asking, what do you remember about your first experience with the Omen?
The poster when I was a kid. And it terrified me. I didn't understand, but I knew there was something. I remember just seeing that poster, and I was very worried. I was very, you know, it's like you know that there's like a cult out there or something, you know, and that poster scared the crap out of me. Before I ever saw the movie, I was already very worried about what the Omen was.
Yeah, I guess I would have been 6, 7 years old in 1976. The poster too, for me, really struck a chord. But also, just even before I saw the movie, just understanding something about, like, I was just like little Jewish suburban kid, and hearing about this like devil child was really confusing for me. I was just like, what is this devil thing? It wasn't part of my religious like dogma of the family I grew up in, but it scared the shit out of me, and I liked it.
John, when did you finally see the film? Do you remember?
Actually, I was too scared to see it when I was a kid because of that poster. You know, it's funny because when I think back to the 70s, so in 1976, I would be 10 years old. And I didn't go immediately to it. I probably saw it maybe when I got it on like at a video store and watched it. But I mean, you got to put on top of that there was a lot of dark, strange, devilly type stuff. Like Charles Manson had killed all these people we had seen. There was lots of like devilly things in the air. Black Sabbath, the band. Like just like there was. But it was very real. Like it was in society. Like society was scared of it, and I would see it in the newspapers. I'd see it at the grocery stores on the magazine racks and things like that. So the Omen was just a whole part of our culture, and that poster to me really summed it up. Because it had the kid and the shadow of a cross, and it was written in red, outlined in black. Had 666 on it. All those things meant something to me, and it was worrying. And back in the 70s, we used to also get a lot of really cheap ass horror on TV at night, and so I watched a lot of that with no parental, guidance or anything like that, and a lot of it was really dark. And so seeing Hollywood do it in such a big way, I was a little nervous. So I didn't see it for a little bit.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting the way that you talked about it being in the air, and the Omen, I think for a lot of horror fans, is sort of the third part of this dark trinity of satanic horror films, where you get Rosemary's Baby, and then you get The Exorcist, and then you get the Omen. And of course, there were a bunch of imitators for all of those films, but the Omen was, like you said, it's very much a polished blockbuster approach to this kind of horror. And we're going to spoil everything that happens in the Omen. The movie is 50 years old this year. So if you still haven't seen it, you can hit pause and go watch the Omen. But the Omen is a film about a powerful, wealthy, normal man, played by Gregory Peck, who realizes that his son might be the Antichrist. But it's also about this vast conspiracy. There's a conspiracy to keep the boy's secret, and there is a conspiracy to try and kill this boy. And you have these opposite forces pushing and pulling. I'm really interested in what you said, Toby, about approaching this as a young Jewish person and watching this film. What about it scared you so completely?
First and foremost, and I can remember a kid when this movie came out, people would be like, it's a Damien, it's a Damien. Anyone who was remotely evil or bad, they would get called a Damien. So before I even saw the movie, I understood that there was a child who had incredible power, and sparked fear in people. And so I was just like, what? I don't understand what this devil concept is, but people seem terrified of it. At the time they were, always talking about the day after nuclear bombs. There were just certain fears that would hit you as a little kid in the 70s. And I guess this kind of sense of evil, was one of them. And I wasn't even coming at it from a Christian eschatological, point of view. I just thought the idea of innocence challenged is very frightening.
Well, and it's something that we're going back to Hellbender. It's something that you both explore a lot in Hellbender. I mean, it's in many of your films, just through what the characters that Zelda and Lulu play as they encounter these uncanny things. So you have that innocence challenge, but it's especially true in Hellbender, because Hellbender is about this very dark legacy that a mother is trying to guide her child through. And is that something that you think that stuck with you, that you carried over from The Omen into your films, or do you credit other films with that?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say definitely, without a doubt, The Omen sits as a pinnacle influencer.
I mean, we were just saying just last night when we watched The Omen again, that's more than any other movie. We've watched The Omen more than anything together. We just keep rewatching it every year or so. We're like, let's watch The Omen. It never gets old. And so I think it really inspired us. for sure.
I mean, one of the things that you say is that it's so important is they're from a class that I'm not from. And so, number one, it's already really interesting to watch that class of people move. And they perform it so well. Who better to perform that class than Gregory Peck? He's just the again, the pinnacle of that type of character, and his wife plays just such a great character too in that. And to have them be the carriers of the seed of the architecture of evil is so cool, that like in such high class, rigid group of people climbs the devil. And then it makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's just great.
And I would add too that even though they do come across as having a lot of money and privilege, they are portrayed so vulnerably.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like this is, in a sense, Damien doesn't get a lot of time on stage, and in front of the lens. But and in a sense, he's a vehicle for everyone else's devotion, and really that for me, this is a story about the adults. This is a story about parental vulnerability and how even when you're faced with, the death of mankind because of evil and the Antichrist, you still have a man with an a child that's not biologically his. He loves his child. And so that is that's powerful writing. And when you see the demise of their marriage, and because the mother doubts what a kind of mother she is, and then she says she wants to abort her child the next time she's pregnant, those are very human parental, emotional scenes that are so powerful, and they raise the stakes of the horror.
And one of the best things ever is if he succeeds and he kills this child, he's a martyr of the highest degree, because no one would even know what he did.
Yeah.
That's so great. I love that. It's totally unheroic.
I love that you brought this angle up, Toby, because it's something that I talk about a lot with regard to religious horror and satanic horror in particular. Because you run across people, and this applies a lot to The Exorcist, but I think it also applies to The Omen. You run across people who say, "Well, I don't find those films scary because I don't believe in the devil. So how could I be scared of something that I know is make believe?" And I'm like, "Do you only watch documentaries? What's like how?" But for me, these are stories about The Exorcist and The Omen share this. They are stories about parents who are terrified on behalf of their child. And we can all, even if you don't have kids, if you have some vulnerable person in your life that you care about, you can relate to what these parents are going through as they are faced with these impossible choices. I mean, that's all through Mother of Flies, that John, your character is like, I'm terrified on behalf of my daughter. I don't know what is going to happen. I'm trying to trust her and let her make her own choices, but I'm completely terrified. And that is a universal feeling, I think. And it is done so well in The Omen, particularly because switching gears a little bit to talk about the craft of this movie, it's such an interesting answer to the question of like, well, how do you portray a child who is the ultimate evil, doesn't necessarily know he's the ultimate evil, but manifests that evil in some way, and basically it's Final Destination before Final Destination. Like he doesn't have to do anything, although he does at one point when he knocks his mother off the balcony and all of that, but he doesn't have to do anything. The universe acts on his behalf. These dark forces create these incredible Rube Goldberg machines of death, and Richard Donner shoots them in such an entertaining way. And when you hear that choir sing that something awful is about to happen. I know because I've watched your film Hellhole that you are fans of hilarious deaths and really crazy gory set pieces. Do you have a favorite death sequence in The Omen?
I mean, boy, I love I guess the three biggies I just love. I mean, I'm always saying, it's all for you, Damien. I always say that because I love that moment. And it's so shocking. And again, that goes into daylight horror. It's all happening there at a children's party on a beautiful summer day. And it's fucking harrowing. I am partial to the stake and the priest and standing there and how much it does look like the slashes in the photographs. Of course, the decapitation is cool because that plays into the whole trope of mirrors that you see a lot in this film, which I'd love to talk about, because when the head's kind of flying, you see its reflection. It's almost watching itself in the reflection of the window pane that chopped it off. So, I guess I don't have a favorite. I love them all.
I love the head. The head coming off is the greatest, most funny one. Like without a doubt, it's just like, oh yeah, you're kind of cheering about the excellence of execution, literally. But my favorite, if I had to just pick one to watch, it would be after she hangs herself. All the way the partygoers look at it.
The silence.
I love that. Like, he was so smart to spend, there's so much time spent on the kids, the merry-go-round still going around, life's kind of going around, and everyone's just taking it in very quietly. Some people are concerned, but most people are just looking up at this woman who's just yanked her life out of herself. So well done.
Yeah. I like the priest a lot. That to me is still my favorite set piece from this film, in part because it's Patrick Troughton, and I just love watching him play this crazed priest who's trying to tell everyone that they're all doomed. You
must drink the blood. You must eat the flesh of Christ.
Absolutely. So Toby, you brought up mirrors, and it is interesting to me that two of the three set pieces that we just talked about have to do with reflective surfaces, panes of glass, the window behind the nanny, and of course the pane of glass that decapitates the photographer. I just want you to expound on that. You said you wanted to talk about the use of mirrors in the film.
Yeah, I think that they're used both metaphorically and as a kind of reverse reality. They can warp, because if you think about religion, you have religion 777, and you have the Father and Son, the Holy Ghost. They even say there's kind of a duality, or like a reciprocation of like the good, the God and Christianity above ground, and then you have the devil, this sort of reverse, and 666 and the Antichrist and Satan, and I don't know enough about it to talk about what that triptych is, but anyway, so I feel like mirrors are a kind of that reverse reflection, and you see the most brilliant scene is when he's looking at the baby that he's going to take, and he's talking to the priest, and you see their reflection in the mirror. It's shot over their shoulder, but you see the reflection. And at the same time, you see the nurse, the nun, with the baby on the other side of the glass. So that whole scene is done in that reflective manner. It's just brilliant.
That is.
And then you have when Kathy's talking about wanting to get an abortion, she's not, her reflection is seen in the window, but his isn't. What else is there? Well, the camera itself, if you think about cameras and the kind of camera he's using, that would have a mirror inside of it, but also pictures as a kind of mirror of reality. You've got that. And I think of those pictures. And mirrors, in a sense, is kind of the Greek chorus. I love when I feel like there's always a Greek chorus in a good story that's kind of telling you little steps along the way, illustrating what is happening. And I feel like the pictures and mirrors are like that too. And then you also have the photographs all throughout, which in a way photographs, that they have framed, again, are just a mirror of reality. It's a moment caught in time. But what I noticed in the photographs, you see, they're always defying what is happening. Like, you always see the pictures of a little happy Damien or a happy Kathy, but what's happening is not happy at all. And so I find like his use of reflection through mirrors is absolutely brilliant in the film.
It is. It's. I love the element of photography as this sort of omen, and the way he works with that. I also just wanted to highlight the climactic sequence of the film, which John you alluded to before, when Gregory Peck he makes the choice, like, I'm gonna have to kill this kid. I guess I don't have any other choice. I guess I have to do this. And it's so wonderfully done, because by this point in the film, we as an audience know exactly what's going on. We know the score. We know who this kid really is. We know what needs to happen. The trolley problem is laid out before us. And yet, when you hear that little kid begging his father not to stab him, you are instantly on the kid's side. You're instantly like, yeah, of course you don't want to stab the little boy. Why would you do that, Gregory Peck? It's such a delicate emotional dance, and I don't think The Omen gets enough credit for being that kind of. I think the other films we were talking about in this sort of satanic horror trilogy overshadow it a little bit, because people tend to think of it as it's the slick blockbuster one. It is, but it has this wonderful emotional core that, like you said, it warps reality. It makes you think about what you would do, and then it makes you question what you would do. It's so brilliant. Are y'all fans of the Omen sequels?
I love the second one, actually. Everyone hates on it.
I like it too.
I think it's really good because it now goes to the boy who has to confront the exact same thing that Gregory Peck had to confront, but now he's confronting it interiorly instead of Gregory Peck from the outside. And I think it's great, especially when he kills his brother.
Yeah. That is Jonathan Scott Taylor, who plays Damien in The Omen 2, is so good in not only like discovering what he's dealing with, but then turning the tables. It also just has amazing set pieces. The guy who gets killed by the train is still just the most over the top crazy thing. Last night, before, because Toby had mentioned in our emails that you love the whole franchise, I watched The Omen 3 for the very first time.
Oh,
which
wow.
is a like shockingly great movie. I had never really heard anyone talk about how great Omen 3 is. Omen 3 is amazing.
It's really well done. It's really well done. I think the only thing is the end gets like, it's so hard to deal with actual heaven and actual hell. Like when you finally open the door to heaven or hell, it's always incredibly difficult. So right at the end, I think when they open the door to heaven, I was a little like, yay. But up until that, like adult Damien is great.
He is great. I love, like to the nth degree, the first Omen, the most recent.
Yeah.
A huge fan of that. I can't tell you how much like mental bandwidth I've put into trying to figure out how they kind of retweaked the mythology of the mother and the jackal and stuff. I put a lot of thought in that because I love the movie so much, and I'm such a purist. I'm like, but how does that work? And but I'm a huge fan of that movie.
I am too. It was one of my favorite films of that year, and I was lucky enough that just by happenstance, I was at a screening at Fantastic Fest, and Arkasha Stevenson sat down next to me. Wow. So I was able to tell her how great that movie was, and it was after like it didn't do as well financially as people thought it was going to do, and all that stuff. And I was like, y'all made a banger. Y'all made such a visually compelling and deeply weird, freaky little satanic horror movie. And I can't say enough good things about the first Omen. In talking about this with y'all, I've stumbled upon a question that I ask a lot, because you clearly like you don't just watch these films and are fans of these films. You go through and try to figure them out. You find the thematic connections, the visual connections to the themes, all of that stuff in your own work. Are those things that you're able to objectively see as you're working on a film, or is that something you have to sort of wait for other people to sort of tell you what kind of movie you made?
Oh, that's a great question. No one ever asked that one.
It is.
But for me, both. The answer is both, because a lot of the times we're trying to say something, and but we are very conscious of the fact that the first time we ever get to watch our movie is when we're sitting with an audience, and then you realize, oh my God, I see what we've made. you know.
Well, like your article meant so much, I remember, to us because you really did hit upon things that we hoped that people would discover. And I remember writing you on blue, what's it called? Blue, whatever.
Sky.
Blue Sky.
Because I just had to like express our gratitude for your profound reception and perceptions that we were going for. Yeah. But it is a joy though, too, when you're like, when it's like, oh, I didn't know that's what we were doing. It's such a joy to see all the different, interpretations. But you really hit some things that were very, very important to us. So yeah, there are thematically, there are touch points that we're often going for.
If listeners, if you want to read that article that Toby is referring to, it's over at popheist.com. I reviewed it out of Fantasia Fest, so it's going back a few months, but you can find it. I really loved the movie, and I really loved, as someone who kind of grew up in the woods, I felt sort of a connection to that sort of life, death, rebirth thing, and the kind of dark fairy tale aspect of it that you just sort of feel immersively when you're in spaces like that. I wanted to take a little while here before we wrap up to just ask a couple of more like broad filmmaking questions that I'm just fascinated by. Anyone who works together as much as y'all have, how do you decide credit? Do you sit around a table and someone immediately goes, I really want to shoot this one? Or how do you figure those things out?
There are certain strengths and preferences we all have, and we do lean on those. Like John and Zelda are really like great with the camera, and I can do the camera when I need to. Sometimes I come up with something really cool, like a cool shot, but often it's luck. They really like have the eye and also the interest. I'm really into like the writing and into the web. That pieces. John's really, really great at like thinking, we should have this action or we should have this kind of kill. And then I come in and say, that sounds great, but we need to know why and how does it fit with A, B, and Z. So we just kind of lean on each other, and in the end, we it's this beautiful symbiosis.
And you've become our on-screen effects makeup artist. Like Toby now does all of our on-screen effects, and then Trey takes those effects and pushes them and helps them and does things like that. So yeah, it's kind of Toby really guides our storytelling too. Like Toby pays attention to the arcs and the circles that need to be completed. And Zelda is a phenomenal director too. But so is Toby. So I think we just kind of at this point, we really listen to each other and just kind of have confidence. We've made so many movies together that all of us have confidence in each other now.
Do you storyboard at all? Are you really rigid with your scripting, or is there a lot of room left for improvisation?
Tons of room. Open air policy to improvisation. No storyboarding. I'm not a very good storyboarding is close to waterboarding to me. Like it got me fucking insane. I'm not a good memorizer of stuff, so it would be pretty hard if we really did have to memorize stuff. We love to talk about when we're walking out to the woods to shoot something, we talk about what are we trying to achieve with this scene, like emotionally and thematically. And then we just kind of go from there. People say what they feel should come out of their character's mouth.
Excellent. That's a really fun way to work. I really like that. Before we go, I do want to ask, because you mentioned The Glorious Dead, which, by the way, is a fucking killer title. Are you able to tell us anything about what you're shooting now, or is it all still a secret?
No, yeah, we love to talk about it. One of the things, so after, like we were saying in the beginning of this, we love talking to everyone in the horror community. It's a great place to talk. And one of the things that we really learned after Mother of Flies is, okay, you know what? Let's make more of a thriller. Let's make a movie that just starts and is relentless. And so we came up with this really fun idea together about a sheriff and a deputy. This is Sheriff Deb that we're looking at right now. And then her deputy is Mikey, who is Zelda. And they wake up and the world is not what they always thought it was. And it only gets worse from there. And it's a really, really fun, relentless, unfolding story that we have basically shot it all. And we're just thrilled by it because Mother Nature showed up and acted her ass off for us.
And share some DNA with the Omen.
Yes.
Let's just say
that.
that.
It sure
Big
shit
time.
does. Yeah. And The Thing, two of our favorite big industry movies.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we'll have to have you back. Maybe next time we talk about The Glorious Dead and we talk about The Thing. That would be so much fun. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Big fan of all of your work, and I'm looking forward to what you do next. Before we let y'all go, will you let everyone know? Obviously, Mother of Flies on Shudder, January 23rd. Watch it, stream it, tell your friends. It's great, and pretty much all the other Addams Family joints are streaming somewhere. So go look up. You're not going to be disappointed by anything that you find. Before we let you guys go, will you let us know where people can find you online to keep up with everything you're doing?
We're mostly on Instagram and adams.family.films. Individually, you can find us on Facebook, but adams.family.films on Instagram is the biggie.
Excellent. Our guests have been Toby Poser and John Adams. Toby, John, thank you both so much for being on the show. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. This was a lot of fun. I loved watching The Omen again.
It's all for you, Matthew.
Thanks once again to John Adams and Toby Poser for being on the show. It was great talking to them. Mother of Flies is available on Shudder January 23rd. That is this weekend. It is a great film. You should absolutely watch it. You should also go follow the Addams Family on all of their socials so you can keep track of all the cool stuff that they're doing. And if you want to keep track of all the cool stuff that we're doing, the best way to do that is to follow us on Blue Sky. We are at scaresshapedus.bsky.social over there. That is where you will find all the episodes we do, new guest announcements, giveaways, and whatever else I feel like posting about on any given day. So if you like the show, give us a follow over there. You can also find us under The Scares That Shaped Us on Facebook, and we are on YouTube as The Scares That Shaped Us. If you prefer to listen to your podcasts over there, like, subscribe, you'll get every episode right there in your YouTube subscriptions. And of course, if you would like to see more of my writing, you can find me online at awalrusdarkly.bsky.social. That is where you will get all of the stuff I'm up to, including whatever nonsense I think about late at night before the sleep meds kick in. You can also find us at our newsletter. That is at MatthewJacksonWrites.com. That's Writes as in WRITES. More newsletter content is coming in 2026, I promise you. So if you want to see a lot more of my writing about horror, head over there, subscribe. We appreciate the support. If you like the show, please tell your friends and consider leaving us a 5-star review on the podcasting platform of your choice. That helps us tremendously. If you love the show, we would really appreciate your support. Next week, we will be back with another brand new episode on Wednesday, January 28th. Follow us on Blue Sky to find out who the guest will be later this week. It's going to be a good one. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I'm Matthew Jackson, and this is The Scares That Shaped Us.